Thank you, and good morning, everybody. While the projector is warming up, I just want to say thank you to Kimberly for that great kickoff. It made me think that you talked about being at the dashboard in Los Angeles and all the indicators being out of whack in 2001. And the sad truth is that that's the situation we're in now as a planet. We don't have the dashboard yet, but we know that the indicators are all out of whack. We don't know what to do. Actually, we know some of what to do, but we're not doing it. And the challenge of collaboration is really fundamental to all that work. Denise read in the introduction that I'm charged to help make Palo Alto the greenest city in the country, and I said to the city council kind of with a smile, if we can figure out what that means. But the bigger challenge is that that's not the job, because sustainability is a team sport. Frankly, and all the transformation that we're trying to do is a team sport. So the challenge is not just what are the solutions, but how do we learn to play together in a way that's effective. Kenan asked me to share some words with you, and I want to share the words on screen with you as well as talking about them, about my journey and about the work that I'm doing and about the role of words in what we're all about here. The journey for me begins with Buckminster Fuller's World Game 43 years ago, where I learned that Bucky's vision of a world that works for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time, through spontaneous cooperation, without ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone, wasn't just a dream and an aspiration, but was an actual realizable reality. And in the course of a summer spent in a deep dive, in a systems view, looking across all the systems and their interconnections, it was clear that that dream could be realized, that it's available to us if we set our minds to it. And recognizing that the power of design, by actually working backwards from the preferred state to now, standing in a successful future and looking back at how did we do that, rather than standing in the present and all of our uncertainty and confusion and pain to try to figure out what the next step is in the cloudy present. And recognizing the driving power of purpose and clarity about purpose, which I think is one of the keys to collaboration. Because in my experience, when you can get people to acknowledge, be present to what they truly care about, the differences start to blur and fade into the background. The opportunity to work together arises. And the purpose of a system, since we're talking a lot about systems here, Stafford Beard taught us, is what the system actually does. The purpose is what it actually does. So we need to look to that. And this approach opens up possibility, because from a systems perspective, as Lauren Cole observes, there are no barriers. There's only stuff. The things that we might call barriers are elements in the system. They're elements of design, and the question is not are they barriers or not, but what do we do with them? How do we not just engage in possibility, but in the possibility of possibility? We'll just let that sink in for a moment. What does that mean, the possibility of possibility? It's a very different kind of world to live in than the world we mostly assume that we're in. So in this work, I've discovered massive value, both in the work with Bucky and in the work over the past 25 years with major corporations finding massive value, massive economic value that's hidden in plain sight, that's discoverable not just through a systems view, but through the living systems view that Denise shared that quote about the 4 billion years of open source R&D. The work for me began in cities soon after the World Game Workshop, co-founding the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in Washington, D.C., a think and do tank focused on urban, ecological, and economic development. And after 25 years of advising some of the largest companies in the world on these value opportunities, now I'm back to cities. I'm 14 months into the job as the Chief Sustainability Officer for Palo Alto, where we are today. They created the position and found me for it. My first reaction when they called me up was, why would I want to go work for a city? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm working in the business world. It seemed like ossified bureaucracy, dangerous territory. They said, come on and look. And I came and looked and thought, holy mackerel, this is the most amazing platform I've seen, given the history of this city, its history of leadership, of entrepreneurship, of innovation, its self-identity as a leader, which is a useful asset for an internal change agent. Because I can always say, wait a minute, if you really want to lead, level it up a little bit, because you're not there yet. So The city of Palo Alto, I think, is powerfully committed and also challenged to stay in the lead in a world where the bar is being raised daily around the world. Cities are now the leaders in sustainability innovation in the planet. Some corporations, yes, not national governments, certainly, but cities here and in Europe and South America and Africa and Asia are taking the lead on this work. Here in Palo Alto, the focus of the effort is to build a sustainability and climate action plan to chart the course for where we want to go as a city. Some of you know that California has a goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions 80% by the year 2050. How many of you know that? How many don't? Okay, so it's a world-leading goal. This is where, this is really setting the bar as California does again and again for what needs to be done. And we said to our consultants, let's build 3 scenarios for this climate plan. Let's make that goal, which is the highest goal for a lot of folks, let's make that our lowest goal. Let's also look at 80% by 2030, same goal but faster. But let's really get serious here and look at what would it take to do a moonshot. Like the Apollo mission in the 1960s, where we set out to land a man on the moon and bring him back alive inside of 10 years. Could we be a climate neutral city in 10 years or less? It's an extreme ask. We don't know if it's possible, but we do know that by asking that question, we look in different places and we find different opportunities than we would find if we were focused on 80% by 2050. So it's an innovation driver. And the challenge is to bring those plans to a tough and rigorous council. Many of our council members are successful business people. They are precise and demanding, and we need to bring plans that are technologically feasible, economically viable, politically doable, politically and legally doable, and culturally acceptable to the community. Because whatever plan we make, if people don't want to do it, doesn't matter at all. There are 2 key elements to this. One is electrification. We're unique, I think, in the United States as a city providing carbon neutral electricity through our municipal utility. That's reduced our emissions 34% in the last 13 years, way ahead of most everybody, but a very long way from 80% or 100% reduction. So we've done the electricity, and now we need to move our natural gas users from natural gas to electricity, the opposite of what most cities in the country are doing. 30% of our emissions live there. More than 60% of our emissions are in transportation. And so we need to not just improve transportation, but utterly transform it here in the heart of car culture. And I'm glad to say we've got a pathway to how to do that regionally. This is something that Palo Alto can't do by itself, with a focus on mobility, not on transportation, and with a commitment to making it more convenient for anyone, anywhere, at any time to not have to get into a car and drive. So watch this space. We'll do this not in a series of bold 5-year plans handed down from above like our colleagues in China do, but in the crucible of democracy. What Winston Churchill, remember, called the worst political system, without doubt, of any kind that has ever been invented by humanity, except for everything else. And so this is the day-to-day work, is how do we do this in that process. So my request to you today, Kenan asked me to end with an ask of you. My request and challenge to you is that in addition to thinking the big thoughts that we're going to think this weekend, is to get out the vote. And not just in the sense of getting out the vote on election day, but every day. Because every day, every time any of us slaps $1 on the counter, we're voting. We're voting for a future, and we're voting for a world. So make that vote count. And think very carefully about how you use your words. Because what makes us distinctive as humans is not our opposable thumbs, and it's not our intelligence. It's that with our words, we create worlds. So let's choose our world, choose our words, and choose our worlds. Thank you.